So it's been a bit since I made a video on this channel, and I want to continue to really put a lot of videos out on this channel and talk more about entrepreneurship, more about business, and really grow this thing. If you guys are new to me, my name is Peter DiCarlo, and today we're going to be talking about my journey, how I started out, how I was in prison, dropped out of college, dropped out of high school, and I've built a company that's doing $400,000 a year in revenue. Now, the goal of this video is not for me to be like, look at all the things I've done with my life, but it's more to show you guys how relatable we are. Like, we are not that different, and to show you guys how relatable we still are. I remember when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, at the time, I felt that there was nobody who was relatable to me. Right at the time, I felt like it was Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, and really like that was about it when I first started out. Those are the guys that I watched. And, you know, over time, my opinions have changed on those types of entrepreneurs. I still love Gary Vee. I'm not a huge fan of Grant Cardone, but I didn't feel like this is somebody on my level or one step above my level. These are all people who are already massively rich, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, telling me what to do, as opposed to people who were at or near my level. And so what I'm going to do is share my story, kind of go over how I was able to become who I am now, and talk a little bit about building and scaling my businesses. So if this content interests you, hit the like button, subscribe. Let me know in the comment section anything you guys want me to talk about in the future, and let's get into it. Now, with these videos, I want them to be a little bit more like a podcast. Anytime I shoot a video on YouTube, I don't really like to edit. I don't like to go through and add cool titles and, put different pop-ups and jump cut a bunch of stuff. I feel like that's really good for a lot of people, but for me specifically, I just want these videos and most of my videos to just be like we're hanging out in my office talking and just sharing a cup of coffee or a glass of whiskey. I feel that it's a lot more relatable, like I said, and I also just feel too that my authenticity comes through a lot more when I'm not like, what's up guys, and all over the place, which if that's not your cup of tea, I completely understand it. But for me, I really, from a young age, I know a lot of people say like, I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. And for me, from a young age, that wasn't my goal. My goal was to be a musician. I knew when I was really young that school wasn't for me. And I think that this is something that not a lot of people talk about. And I get very hesitant to tell people that like schooling is not for most people, especially if you're younger. I don't want to be the reason you drop out of high school or drop out of college. But for me, when I was looking at high school when I was younger, I was like, I'm really bad at this. And I always thought I was dumb. Like I really thought that I was unable to ever become something because I was really bad at school. And it wasn't until later in my life that I realized like, I'm just not good at school. Most of the stuff that you learn in school is not applicable to anything else that you do outside of school, right? Everything that I've done in my career, in my life to build these businesses, to, create videos, to do whatever it is, to actually make money, I never learned in school, right? I didn't. And so growing up, I had realized like, even in my teens, like teachers get paid 40 grand a year. What the hell are they going to do? Like, I want to make money. That's my goal. I want to make money. So I want to learn from people who make money. Teachers don't make a lot of money, right? Business professors don't make a lot of money unless you're like a Harvard business professor who actually has built multi-million-dollar companies. And most of the time they're giving away their time for free in their retirement to, help out with younger students who want to follow in their footsteps. And I realized just from a young age that like the school system was not there to teach me how to make money. And so I dropped out of high school. I couldn't finish. My biggest reason that I decided to walk away was I went from a Catholic high school to a public high school, mainly for a girl because you're stupid when you're young. And they wouldn't allow me to walk, and I would have to, because theology didn't count as like credits, I would have had to actually do summer school. I was like, I'm not doing that. I don't care about a high school diploma anyway. I'll lie on my resume, which you should never do. But I dropped out of high school. I tried very hard to become a musician, and the one thing that I realized is that while I was taking it very seriously, everybody else was not taking it as seriously as myself. I slipped into a drug addiction, which comes with a lot of musicians, and it was a really dark time for me. I got my first DUI when I was 16 for marijuana. I got my second DUI at 17 for marijuana, and I was on probation for 5 years. And then in, I think this was like 2012 or 2013, I was not selling marijuana, but someone told the cops that I was selling marijuana. They flashbanged my house, slammed a battering ram through the door because they had a warrant, because it's very easy to get a warrant when I was already on probation, and they found 14 grams of marijuana in 14 different bags inside of a scale. Now, if you don't smoke, 14 grams of marijuana is like half of what now, remember this is like 10 years ago, is what now would be decriminalized in most places. And because I was on probation at the time, I couldn't even fight the case or get out of prison. So I sat in prison for like 8 or 9 months just fighting all of these cases before I had finally gotten out, which going to prison was the best thing that had ever happened to me in my life. The best thing. I would never recommend it, but it taught me a lot. And when I was in prison, I had nothing to do but to think. And I feel that when we live in a life right now, in a society right now where you don't ever think, you don't ever have time. You're either watching YouTube, you're on Netflix, you're, working, which is very important, you're spending time with loved ones. You're constantly stimulated. You're on the internet, that when you have no stimulation at all, you have all of this time to think. And I think that most of the time we don't think because that's where the pain comes in. That's where we really have to start to deal with things in our life that we don't want to deal with. And that's why we're addicted to this dopamine society. And when I was in prison, I was like, man, like, why am I like this? Like, why do I feel like such a failure? Why have I gone down this path? And the overarching aspect that I realized was like, I had let everybody down. I wasn't good in school. My family wanted me to be a doctor. I wasn't in society's, mold of what would be a good person. I couldn't get a job. I was a felon now. I just never really applied myself anywhere. And then I started to think to myself, like, how did these old rich dudes get money? I always thought that, like, old rich white guys, how'd they get money? And then I started looking into people who were worth serious amounts of money as I got out of prison. And I was like, none of these guys really use their college degrees to go get, mass amounts of money. None of these people really used anything that I've been taught to go make money. And I was like, you don't really need to have a degree to make money. You don't need to have all of these things. You just need to provide services. You just need to provide value to the marketplace. And that's where like my brain of entrepreneurship just absolutely exploded at the time. I was like, holy shit, like I just need to provide value. And that is when I was out of prison. It's like 2014, 2015. And I really started to focus on building my character. Now, if you watch me on Traders Helping Traders or my other channel, Peter DeCarlo Investing, I always say who you are outside of the market is who you will become inside of the market. And that's the aspect for everything. Who you are outside of business is who you will be inside of business. And so if you're somebody who's trying to start a business, if you're somebody who's trying to get into anything entrepreneurial, I will highly recommend that you focus on yourself before you focus on building a company. We always try to put the cart before the horse, and that's never going to work, right? I was very, very impatient. I still am, but I've learned to work on that. I was really bad at focusing. I had to learn to work on that. And so I spent a year and a half my own, building my own school, reading books, learning from mentors. And I remember like, at the time, everyone thought that I was so stupid for it because I had no job. I had no money. I was literally living off of condiment sandwiches. It was called condo sandwiches, where I would go to Wawa and steal like jelly and Caesar dressing, and I would put it on a roll. And there was a bakery that I lived above, and they would drop the bread off at 6 a.m, and I'd run downstairs and I'd grab 2 loaves of bread and whatever, I'm incriminating myself right now, but that's how I lived. And I just kept learning and learning and learning. And like, I knew that since I was young, I could take necessary risk needed in order to eventually have that payoff in the future. And coming out of prison, and this is something that not most people can realize, but coming out of prison, I realized like I should be grateful for just sleeping on a bed, not having to take a crap in front of another grown man. Like, I always thought the worst case scenario is I just live on someone's couch, right? Like, it's the worst case. And so I did this for years and years and years. And I had 8 failed businesses. Like, off the top of my head, I had an Instagram/social media agency. I had multiple drop shipping companies. I ended up having a marketing company for lawyers. I worked with a lawyer for a bit. That was crazy. He ended up not doing well and robbing a bank, and just fucking crazy. I ended up having a lot of different companies that I can't even think of. I think it was like 7 or 8 in total. And then I started trading stocks while I was doing all of this. And through the stock market, one of the things that really derails a lot of people, but also attracts a lot of people, is the fact that money doesn't care about your skin, right? The color of your skin or your race. Money at its core doesn't really give a shit about your sexual preferences. It doesn't care about your past. Like when I'm trading in the stock market, nobody knows I'm a felon. And the easy barrier to entry is also what destroys most people. And at the time, I was like, dude, the stock market is a phenomenal place for me to learn to trade. And so while I was learning, I ended up making some money from the lawyer, and my mother passed away, and I ended up getting some money, unfortunately, from her life insurance. I was like, I'm going to start trading stocks. So I started trading stocks, and still I'm not making money. I don't have a job, right? And I started trading and I turned like $5,000 into like 30 something $1,000 and then put like another 15 grand in from my mother's life insurance policy that had me up around 50,000. And I thought that I was doing things right. And this is a really big piece of advice that I want you guys to realize, not only in the stock market, but in life. Just because something is working out doesn't mean that you are doing something correctly. For instance, what I was doing was every single time a stock would go down, I would average down into that position on margin. And I would just keep buying it as the stock is dropping. And at some point, the stock would completely reverse and I would make all my money back and a profit. Now, if you're somebody who's a trader, you know that's not smart, because there's going to be a time where it doesn't rebound. It drops to, the depths of hell and you lose everything, which is exactly what happened. And I remember I cried. I'm not going to lie. I was completely poor. I had nothing. And what little money I had to my name, I completely blew. And I remember crying, contemplating life, thinking if this is the right thing to do. If I wasted 5 years of my life just, trying to become an entrepreneur, trying to become a trader, if I had wasted so much of this time. And I really thought to myself, what would I rather do? Would I have rather lost $25,000 in 4 years of my life trying to learn to become an entrepreneur and trying to learn to become a trader, which they're not the same thing. You don't have to be a trader. I recommend 99% of people not actually become traders. But so what would I rather do, that or go to school and get a formal education, spend 50 grand, go into student debt, and just walk away with a bunch of shit that's usually useless anyway? So I was like, no, I know there are successful people that do this. I just have unrealistic expectations of what I can do, right? I can't just learn to trade and in a year and a half expect to be proficient and one of the best traders alive. That's just not going to happen. And so after all these failed businesses, after continuing to stick with trading, after finding mentors, after continuing to read, I really started to become a good trader. And the biggest thing I feel that a lot of people focus on is the money. How much money are you making every single year? And I focus on experience. I focus on, am I growing as a human each and every single year? And I'll tell you, right, in 2014, I made zero. Well, let's say 2007, from the time I graduated high school or got my GED, right, I made $0. 2009, zero. 2010, zero. All the way up to 2015, I made zero. Working with a lawyer and trading, I made 10 grand. Right, that year in 2017, 2018, same thing, 2019, same thing, 2020, well, trading in 2018 and 2019, I did make 30 grand, 50 grand, and then 70 grand, but I don't count that because that stays in the account. I didn't even live off of that. And then I started my company in 2020 during the pandemic because so many people were asking me in February 2020, because I was calling the top. I didn't think Corona was going to happen, but so many people are asking me, how are you making money? How are you trading? How are you investing? And I was posting everything on social media years before I ever planned to coach. I never wanted to coach. I was just posting it for my own, keeping myself really accountable, doing it via, Twitter. And I think I was using Instagram and Facebook at the time. A lot of people are asking me hey, how are you trading? And so I started a free course called the Introduction to the Stock Market course. It's still on my website. And I remember I was like, I should charge people $20 a month, just teach them, right? And I had this thing explode. It went all the way up to we had 200 members, and I had to shut everything down. I kept who was there, but I had to shut everything down because I was like, this is getting too big. And that's how my mentorship group started. And it was crazy. 2020, not including trading, this is just the company. 2020, we ended up doing $5,000 in sales in like 2 months. And then we closed the year out at $35,000 in sales. Last year in 2021, we did $275,000 in revenue, which I got to keep like 70% of that. And then this year we're on track for $490,000. We've already done $265,000 in 8 months, which is just fucking crazy. So moral of the story, since we're like 15 minutes in, it's probably gonna be like a podcast episode, but moral of the story is don't ever focus on the amount of money. That's just that's not including trading either, or my real estate investments, which we made good money off of too. But don't ever focus on the money in the beginning. Focus on the skills. Focus on who you're becoming, because the truth is everything could burn to the ground tomorrow, but I still know everything I know and I can build it back instantly. And so at the time, like, I went like this, like my yield curve for income was like nothing, a little bit, from 30 grand to 50 grand to 150 grand to $500,000 in 5 years. And next year we're projecting close to $1 million, which is just fucking crazy to think that a felon, drop out from college multiple times, which I forgot to add, dropped out of high school, like could make 500 grand in a year, sitting in his office, happy as a pig in shit, right? Like, it's just crazy. Sometimes I don't feel grateful for a lot of the things that I do, and sometimes I really don't look back at who I was. And so making these videos really does help. Even if nobody watches them, they help me. And that's kind of why I started this, to help myself, to document and to look back. Because in 2016, I was vlogging every single day. And I deleted all those vlogs, man. And I'm so pissed off because I would love to look back at young Peter and be like, bro, you were on the right track. And I think the issue is, and what I really want to talk about a lot on this channel is, like, a lot of you guys are this fucking close. This close, man. Imagine if I would have quit in 2019. Would have never been where I am right now. So don't quit. Keep it up. And just really focus on your own education, really focus on yourself, really be mindful, really focus on being the best person you can be. And I want to do more of this. I want to talk more about this. I want to go over just more of these like chill videos. Like, it's like I said, like, doing this is not even for views. The other channels take care of that. This is just for me. And I think it'll be very helpful and very beneficial to you guys. Thanks for all the support. I fucking love you. Have a good day, guys. Peace.